Wow! Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone! This is Ninomae from hololive English Myth, and also, I happen to be AmiAmi's ambassador! Yay! Well, I've been tasked with informing you guys about various figure, or I guess AmiAmi related things once a month. And since, due to various reasons, I can't stream until December, so I thought I would maybe prepare a short, informative video for November. What do you guys think it is? Well, actually, the idea was from one of our own. A suggestion from the very first stream I did. I asked you guys if you guys had any ideas about future streams or videos, and the Don Tassus Juice said, stream idea. Showcase the different figure types, Nendoroid, Figma, pop-up, etc. to those new to figures to know what each type is like. And I was like, oh, what a great video idea. I will use it for November. So, today's theme is indeed the November special video, all about figures 101. I will talk about various things today regarding the figures. And yeah, what's gonna happen on this stream? Let me go over it. Definitely not PowerPoint. So, I will be explaining, I guess, categorizing different figures into different common types of figures you will find. And, this kind of a video for those who want to kind of put your toes into collecting figures but don't know really where to start. Or, it's the holiday season soon. Maybe you want to buy something for a special someone, maybe a figure, but you don't know where to really start, what kind of price point they are. So I thought I would just kind of generalize, several different categories for you guys to choose from. And of course, if I just show off figures from AmiAmi, for example, it wouldn't be as fun. So as a challenge, I will explain these categories using my own figure collection. I know you guys, or some of you guys in the past have been kind of curious about what sort of figures I own, because I do own quite a few actually. Preparing for this video, I went through which ones to show on stream. Oh, and I realized I did have quite a few, so I will try and showcase as much as possible, but there are some that, one, I forgot to take pictures of because I was kind of in a rush to make this video, and two, I do not own, I guess. So yeah, I did my best. And surprisingly, I did have quite a bit of variety, but yeah. And I do have to let you guys know this is not my full collection. It is, what should I say? It is a part of my collection. I have quite a lot more. I didn't quite have time to show off my entire collection, and as some of my collection is with Mama niece, I had to quickly ask Mama niece to bring a couple of them over to my place so I can quickly take pictures of them. Oh, yeah, sorry, this video was quite rushed. I had to get as much done as possible in a short amount of time, so yes. And of course, a little disclaimer, this list and categories and whatnot is based on my, Ninomae Inanitsu's own experience and knowledge about figures, and is only reflective of a very, very small portion of the figure collecting rabbit hole. I have to say, figure collecting is quite the rabbit hole. There are so many types, so many different figures, so many characters, so many outfits, whatnot. There's just so many. So yeah, I had to narrow it down as much as possible, as basic as possible. So I hope yeah, And And of course, feel free to comment or I guess chat about if you guys have any other points you want to talk about regarding whatever I say. And you know, if there's any veteran figure collectors out there, if you have tips about, you know, how to store your figures, I definitely need tips because I... You'll see later in the video why I say I need better, you know, figure display storage stuff. But anyways, if you have any tips, you know, for any new figure collectors out there, make sure you you know, share tips and stuff. It's nice to have more people share your hobbies, you know. So yeah. Alright, so how will this work? First, I will categorize the figures by the common types you will run into while you're shopping or you're browsing. You know, maybe you're going to the Akihabara AmiAmi figure tower, for example. You can be like, oh yes, I saw this on Ina's video and stream. I know this is you know, a scale figure, or this is a nendoroid, or etc, etc. And yeah, so with each category, I will also, you know, kind of explain what identifies them. So for example, like a figure, scale figure will be a scale figure because of this and that, and stuff. And I will give a very general size and price point. When it comes to price points, it's really difficult to give a very, I guess, solid range, like actual numbers, because you know, different places have different prices. Some of the second-hand figures, of course, will be cheaper, or you know, some of the rare figures will be more expensive, etc. And even within the same category, there's different subcategories as well. So I just try to gauge, you know, gauge how much of a range I find these common categories in, and you know, I represent it with just dollar signs. So like, you know, $1 sign will be on the cheaper side, $3 sign will be on the more expensive side, etc, etc. So that is how they're categorized. Of course, feel free to ask questions if you guys have it. I'm sure me and or other fans who are more versed in this topic will be happy to answer any questions you have once the video's been posted, of course. Alright. So, there's so many figures out there, so many things to categorize them into. How did I sort them into these categories? Well, I sorted them into 4 big categories, and I will say this first. I put Figma as a big category, but in general, I kind of mean like movable figures in a way that are not mini-sized. But I only had one example. But Figma is pretty well known, so I think it's reasonable. But so the 4 categories are scale figures / non-scale figures, and Figma / movable figures, budget-friendly figures. This has a lot of subcategories, and minifigures. So something on the smaller side, not just size-wise, but like proportion-wise. I call them minifigures. But these are the 4 that I will cover today. Of course, there's so many more out there, but I think this is a pretty good place to start. Especially if you're new to the world of figures, you know. So, shall we get started? The first category, scale figures and non-scale figures. I have quite a few examples of those, so I was wondering if I should save them for last, but I feel like it should go first, because when people think of anime figures, character figures, it's kind of like the first thing they kind of, I guess, think of. At least that's for me. Like, when I think anime figures, I directly go to, you know, scale figures first. But yes, scale figures. what I consider to be probably the most iconic of the bunch. Is probably a countless number of them out by now. But usually how you identify them is by the scale indicated in their name. So, for example, if Ina had a scale figure, it would be like Ninomae Inen is 1/8 scale figure complete or something like that. So these scale kind of indicate how big the figures are. For example, like a 1/12 scale figure will be smaller than the 1/4 figure. Of course, there are one-to-one figures out there. I don't know if I consider them figures anymore. They're probably closer to statues. But Hololive has a couple of them. And yeah, I would say they're probably like medium to large, depending on the scale, the size. But usually they are probably on the bigger side most of the times. Because of their bigger size, you can see a lot of details. And usually a lot of these scale figures are in the higher price points, so the amount of, I guess, craftsmanship that goes into it is definitely a lot higher than some of like the budget options. You'll definitely see differences in like the build quality, the painting, I guess, details, and actually like even the smallest sculpted items and stuff are very detailed as well. So. And what I personally found was that because there's a lot of different production companies for these figures, right? Not just the scale figures, but for anything else as well. I realized that a lot of different companies have a certain style too, like a art style almost when it comes to like illustrations. So I think there are people who like prefer certain companies over the other as well. So that's a rabbit hole I personally haven't gone down, but I'm sure there'll be takodachis out there who will kindly explain that for me. If you're interested in hearing about that, that is. So, what kind of scale figures does Ina have? This is probably the biggest portion of my collection, and I only included a couple. I've talked about a few of these on stream before. There's probably a couple I haven't really talked about, but first of all, one, I feel like this is probably the first or one of the first scale figures that I have bought myself. Actually, I got it technically as a gift for Mama niece because it was around the time where Mama niece saw a scale figure on one of the trips to Japan, and she was really interested in them. So one of the years where I did not have an idea for what to get Mama niece, I was like, Mama niece, would you like a cute anime figure for present? And so after thinking about it a lot, this is what I got. Fate Series Idol Emperor Nero 1/7 scale figure. I say this is one of the first I bought, but I remember when I first saw this figure before I started collecting them, I fell in love with this figure. This image is from AmiAmi. The rest of the pictures are taken by me, so don't worry about that. There's a reason I took this image from AmiAmi. I'll talk about this a little later. But when I first saw this, I absolutely fell in love, and I was like, one day I will get this. And it ended up being a present for Mama niece. AKA, I kind of bought it for myself, but kind of gifted it to Mama niece. I mean, back then I still lived with Mama niece, so it's fine. But I absolutely love the details on the frills, the roses, the pose, the couch, just everything is just sculpted so perfectly, and I was in awe just staring at this for so long. And okay, the reason I had to use the AmiAmi image for introducing this is because Mamani's Mamani's lost the cushion. So this is one of the figures that was left behind in Mamani's place. And I have to say, when I asked her to bring over the figures, some things were missing. But the details are still there. Main, most important, Nero is still there. So, sorry, I'll try to find the cushion again. But just for the showcase, I did wanna talk about why this is one of my favorites. It's because of, especially the details are on the face. I have to say that's one of the very important things to me when it comes to figures, is how well they represent the 2D art in 3D. And I think it's quite difficult to get. I think those of you who are knowledgeable about like 3D anime and things should be probably aware of how difficult it is to get the face right. And I feel like when it comes to like 2D characters, the face is quite important. And this is one of the figures where I say it's like almost like perfect from the art to the figure. And it just represents Wanako Sensei's style so well. It's so I really love how the shadow, like even with the lighting, when I try to take the photo in like a let's say neutral lighting as much as possible, but the shadow usually falls on the face. Well, it's less obvious here, but it creates like a general contrast, like even across the whole figure. So it's like the whole figure becomes an artwork on its own. And look at the details on the frills. It's incredible. I really love how it's so beautifully crafted. I don't know what else to say. Oh, I just wonder how difficult it is to just craft figures like that. I guess like there is a reason these scale figures have a higher price point, because of the craftsmanship that goes into it. But you know, frills is one of the things I don't. Well, I do like drawing it, but I always am in pain drawing it because of the detail it adds. But even like the small creases on the frills is visible, and even on her shoes, the ribbons, the details are very crisp. None of them is kind of like merged into each other, which is one of the things I think is comparable between more budget option for figures and scale figures, is the amount of like clarity in the detail. So yeah, even look at the crease on her shoes as well. It just, amount of details is insane. Of course, as it is a figure, it has to be perfect 360 degrees. And the amount of detail they put into even the props, like the leg of the couch as well, and the individual pearls, very, very crisp, very beautiful. Definitely one of my favorite figures in my collection. Alright. My second scale figure I want to showcase is the Len Sudden Attack 1/7 scale figure. It's also 1/7. 1/7 is quite common in the scale figure department. So it is a pretty similar size to the previous one. And I think I mentioned this one on stream before, how it's one of my favorite in the collection. I mean, the ones I'm showcasing is one of my favorites in the collection, so I can't really say much. But this is one of one of many Kuroboshi Papa figures you will see in this video. So, but this is definitely the most expensive one. I absolutely love the details of each strap. Like, even because Kuroboshi Papa adds a lot of smaller details into his art. Like when he draws lens straps, for example, you can definitely see the striped texture, or the metal parts have a certain shape, or even the bullets on Piton is definitely visible in the figure as well. And you can see the different textures and I guess material, or how it's painted as different material. It's quite visible. Even the wheels on the luggage case, luggage case, is sculpted very, very detailed. And as I said before, the face is very important to me. And Len looks very cute. And the overall like dynamic energy the figure has because of the pose and the overall, I don't know what to say, composition. It's very nice. And this I guess figure is based on, I think, that one episode or story rather, where Len is actually hiding inside the luggage, hiding from the enemies, and the enemies come because they have like a little scanner and they're like, I see the enemy being right here, but there's no one on the streets. But Len is just hiding inside the luggage because she's very small. And then when it's time, she bursts out just like this figure out of the luggage, and she gets everyone. So this figure is kind of like representing that little tidbit, and I really liked that episode too. So yeah, I really like this one. This is probably one of my, I mean, easily my favorite, I have to say. I'm biased. But yeah. Next figure. You guys might have heard about me talking, heard me talk about it, because I got another, I guess, version in a way, another of the series of the Radio Eva figure. This is the Evangelion Radio Eva Kaoru Nagisa version Radio Eva original color 1/7 complete figure. Wow, that was long. But yeah, this is the Kaoru figure I said I owned. It's the 1/7 and 1/7 figure, and it is the original color version. As I think I talked about this, but this figure is based on the key visual that Yoneyama Mai Sensei draws for the Radio Eva. I think this is the first collection because yeah, I saw the art that Yoneyama Mai Sensei did, and I bought the hoodie. And the figure released quite a bit afterwards, so I pre-ordered it when it was announced. There's actually two versions of this specific figure as well, because this one is the original color, which is closer to the illustration key visual, which is more on the monotone, desaturated kind of colors, and there is a more colorful, like real life color version of the same figure as well. I did not have the funds to buy both of them, so I decided to get this one because it was closer to the illustration that I really liked. Next, of course, I can't forget Hololive. This is the Shirakami Fuuki 2019 Summer Event version 1/7 complete figure. And I have to say, this is the first Hololive figure I bought. And this was quite a while ago. I remember the release for this being delayed once. But it was back in the day. I was and am still a big fan of Fuuki senpai, and I used to watch her streams a lot, and it was around the time I started, looking into collecting figures, and I saw this one, and I was like, I need to get this. Yeah, I have to say, I don't know if I've said this on stream before, but I've only super chatted one Hololive member before, becoming a member myself, and that was Fuuki senpai. Yeah, I really like the details on this as well. especially her tail and her hair. How each strand is very crisp. I'm gonna say crisp a lot, but that's just the perfect word to describe figures. And the way it's painted, and the slight material as well, her shirt has great contrast between the folds, because there's only so much just natural lighting can do to showcase like the folds on the material. So the painting job exaggerates these folds, and it really makes the figure pop, I think. As an artist myself too, I think contrast is very, very important. Value contrast. So using the paint as well as, you know, the actual material as well really makes this figure very Alright, next on the list, non-scale figures, which I would say, I guess they're close to a scale figure. Actually, this is a very, very, very broad category of figures. Basically, whatever figure that I could not really put them into a specific category for. So, yeah, you know, there are a lot of figures that are just released that doesn't really have the, you know, 1/7 figure kind of attached to them. So this is very broad, which means the sizes are also very broad, from small palm-sized figure to much larger, not scale, larger figures. And of course, with that, the price point will also differ quite a bit as well. Some of the examples I have in my collection is the Paul Bunyan Learn with Manga Fate Grand Order version complete figure. I have to say, Bunyan is one of my favorite servants in FGO, if you guys haven't known. And as soon as I saw this figure, before I knew it, I was on the order page. And from the looks of it, right, it looks quite small. And just from the clear base to it, it almost looks like a nendoroid size. And to my surprise, when I received it, it was quite big, I should say. Which is kind of in character with Bunyan, because, you know, once you see Bunyan, you think Bunyan's just a tiny little cute servant, but Bunyan big, Bunyan very big. And this is a different view, as you can see. I actually really like petting this figure because the hat is very smooth. Although I should probably not touch my figures with my hands as much as possible. But yeah, this is, I think the height of this is around 145 millimeters, so it's like 14.5 centimeters. Quite big, quite big. But very cute. Another example of this would probably be from my from my Butchi collection. There is the PVC Melty Princess Hitori-chan palm size figure. I think this is the series where the figures are released. They're not quite to scale, but they fit on the palm of your hand. So that's kind of like the catch of the lineup of figures. And yeah, so there's a lot of figures like this you'll run into where it doesn't really have the scale on the title of it, which means it's probably just a general figure, or it belongs in like a different, I guess, lineup of figures as well. Yeah, and of course, the hololive collection. I wasn't sure if I should include these because technically you don't know how big the smalls are in real life. At least I think. They might be as big as the hololive collection small minifigures, or maybe they're much bigger. So, but they still are figures in a way. So, yeah. So I thought that I'd include them. So I don't have as much examples of the non-scale figures, but they are out there, and there's a lot of them. I'm sure some of you guys have quite a collection of them too. Up next are Figmas! They are the movable, posable, customizable figure lineup. So much you can do with Figmas. And Figma usually come with various parts where you can customize and kind of figure out how to pose your figure and display it. Usually comes with different facial expressions as well and different hand parts. Some of the accessory comes with actually you need to switch the hand part so it can hold the accessory and stuff. But there's a lot you can do with it, and I guess one of the biggest good things about Figma is that you can choose the pose that you want to display it in. And if you get bored of it, you can switch the pose, switch the accessories. And there's a lot you can do with it. I know there's people who do like stop motion with the Figmas as well, because there's so many different poses and accessories you can exchange. It's pretty cool. Well, there are actually different lineups for posable figures as well, but since Figma is probably the most well-known amongst figure collectors as well, I thought I would just cover Figmas, because I'll be honest with you, I do not own any other posable figures other than the Figma. Good thing about Figma is that there's a lot of hololive members released as Figmas as well, so you can collect them all. But I would showcase some of the Figmas of the holomems that I've gotten, but they're still in their boxes because I have no more display case space. I think a lot of you guys can agree that once you start collecting figures and once you really get into it, you run out of space, and you gotta really choose which ones to display and which ones to leave in the box until you got enough space or a new display case to display them on. So the one single Figma that I had was of Jean Alter. I thought I had a lot more Figmas unboxed and displayed, but apparently not. But I had this one for quite a while, I remember, because I wasn't really familiar with Figmas when I got this, and I had a really hard time balancing the flag because I really wanted to display the flag and her weapon and have her stand. And the flag is pretty heavy compared to her entire body, so even with the support beam in the back, it was quite difficult. So with her, I don't have the original box with me because this was one of the ones that was left with Mamanis. But as you can see, the flag itself is also detachable, so in case, if you want her to hold the flag, you'll have to insert that metal beam into her hand and then enclose it by sticking the other part of the flag from beneath so that she can hold the flag. This pose on the right, it took so long to try to get it to balance properly for me to take the picture. But I did it. But yeah, as you can see, different poses you can take. You can actually switch the hand parts as well, so you can have her not hold the sword and have to do something else. But honestly, despite having to simplify some of the original designs for the joints to be able to move, it is still quite detailed. And, I feel like you can have a lot of fun making different poses and stuff. You can even make like a little story with how you can change the poses as well. So, yeah, Figma is quite fun. They have a lot of different characters released. So, there's a pretty high chance that if there's a character that you really want a figure for, that they will have a Figma lineup. So, yeah, so that's the Figmas. Next, we have a big category, which is the budget-friendly figures. And it's quite big because I feel like more recently, there has been companies that put out these budget-friendly lineup of figures. so that more people can kind of get into collecting the figures as well. Because I have to say, scale figures themselves are quite pricey, so it is a quite expensive hobby. But with these budget-friendly figures, a lot more people can enjoy, you know, collecting figures of their favorite characters and stuff. Yeah. And honestly, I've included like crane game or game prize figures in this category as well, because if you don't try get them on your own, it is much cheaper. It is a lot more affordable if you don't try to get your own crane game figure. And over the years, I've realized the quality of these figures have gone up quite a bit, because I guess it's also becoming pretty competitive as well. So the quality is pretty good for the price. And I have to say, I should look into getting more of these as well. And not winning them on my own, because I sometimes win easily with crane games, but most of the times not. Alright, so the first subcategory I wanna feature is actually the prize figures, which is the figures you see at those, you know, prize and crane games. There's definitely a big variety, but you'll see, I guess when it comes to variety of characters, there has been a lot that's been released, but there's definitely a lot of repeating characters being released for the really popular characters, like Rem, for example, or you know, I see a lot of One Piece figures or Jujutsu Kaisen figures if I walk through the game centers these days. But there are lineups with the more rare characters as well, so sometimes you'll run into those, and I usually consider it pretty lucky. But yeah, and if you end up purchasing them from AmiAmi, for example, you see like game price like attached to the title, so you'll know that these ones are actually from the crane games and stuff. And some of these have more noticeable groupings or namings. For example, you know, relaxed time figures that some of the holomems have, or the really well-known, the noodle stopper ones where you have to have the figures sit on something, otherwise they don't balance. And honestly, I have a couple of the noodle stopper figures, and I'll showcase them in a bit. But these are quite difficult to display because they need to be sitting on something, preferably, I guess, a cup noodle or a shelf. But when it comes to my display case, it doesn't have like a ledge or anything. So I had to get creative, and I put them on small cans and things, because cans don't take up that much space, and real estate in the display case is very, very precious. I gotta say. So the first prize figure I wanna showcase from my own collection is actually Nami's Relax Time one. I remember I had quite a bit of trouble getting this because I got this myself, and I wasn't as used to the crane games, and I have to say I used quite a bit, but I think it is definitely available for cheaper. Don't be like me. But I remember I got this before going over to Lami's place for the collab, and she actually wanted to give me one. I was just like, but I already won one. So and there's a short story about that. But yeah, for I guess like prize game figures, the builds are quite simple, but there's still quite a bit of details because you can see different I guess strands of the hair as well, and her different gradients in the hair is painted pretty well. The folds on their clothes are very well sculpted. Quite like this one. And the next two are noodle stopper figures, which both happens to be Kuroboshi Papa's figure or designed figure. The first one being the Miku one, and I remember I saw the art first, and I realized it was being turned into a noodle stopper figure, and so I really had to get it. I really love the details and the metallic texture of her shirt as well. And the hair is looks almost like kind of translucent in a way, like see-through. And the way she's like with her hand like that, I think there was actually like an art trend recently where one of the ponytails fell off of this figure, and it kind of got viral and people started drawing this Miku with this pose. So some of you guys will probably be like, I've seen that Miku before, where have I seen it? Yeah, that's where it's from. And one of my favorite parts about this figure is actually the hair, because these noodle stopper figures, right, they need to have really good balance, because you can't have too much balance or too much weight on the feet so the figure topples over. You need to have enough weight on the back so the figure doesn't, you know, topple over. And they did that with the hair, and just I feel like it's so clever, and I really like the way Kuroboshi Papa draws hair. It's just so organic, so cool. I think, I said before, the face is very important when it comes to figures, and with a lot of the budget-friendly figures, you will see that sometimes the face might not look quite right, but this one I think it's pretty cute. So, plus points from me. And of course, the second noodle stopper figure is none other than Hokusai. Yeah, I have quite a lot of Kuroboshi Papa figures. I can't help it. I really like the art he does and the figures he designs, because one of the, I guess, important things when it comes to figures or statues or sculpting, I think some of you guys will agree with me, is the composition, and not just 2D composition, like the 3D space, like how much great space and great silhouette a figure has. And Kuroboshi Papa does a really good job. And yeah. And actually, I think the brush is actually detachable here, so pretty sure Mamani's possibly have lost the brush, because I have two of these, so this is the one in my house. But yeah, the brush actually helps balance the overall figure as well. I talked about how the noodle stopper figures need really good balance, so the brush actually helps balance out the whole figure as well. And Hokusai has a lot of smaller details, and despite this being like a noodle stopper figure, it has a lot of great details. And I know the kimono patterns are, I think, like printed on or sticker printed on, but they kind of add like a great complexity to the overall figure as well. Great texture. Okay, the next one also happens to be Kuroboshi Papa's designed figure, but I shared this one with you guys before when I got it, which is the bunny figure! The Hatsune Miku by Cute Bunny's figure game prize. And I wanted to show this one off specifically because despite this looking kind of small, this is one of the biggest figures I have in my display case. And I have two of these, one in black, one in white. And I gotta say, it's totally worth it because this figure is a little special. You might be able to tell from this picture, but if you zoom in on the legs, the stockings are actually not painted or sculpted. It's actual fabric, which I thought was really unique when it comes to a figure, especially like a prize game figure. And you don't see this very often. At least I don't see this very often. I thought it was really cool because when I first saw the pictures, I thought it was just like sculpted or painted on. But I actually got it and I felt it and I was like, wait a minute, this is actual fabric. And this actual fabric, I think, adds a lot of detail and complexity to the overall figure as well. And you can kind of see the texture on the shirt too, which is quite incredible. And of course, Kuroboshi Papa's design overall is cute. The way he draws legs is very nice silhouette-wise, and I think this figure really shows that off really well. And then, of course, this is the white version has a slightly different expression. I think it's quite often in the not often, quite common in the prize figures, where there's like a different variation of the figure and they have like a different expression. For example, same pose, different expression, different color variation, and of course, this is how it looks from the back. And because the stocking is actual fabric, they like closed it up, like they stitched it up in the back. You don't see it from the front. You see the detail from the back. We can see just how great the silhouette of the legs are. It's so great. Definitely one of my favorites in my collection. Okay, next up we have the Pop-Up Parade lineup. This is a budget-friendly lineup released by Good Spell Company starting in 2019. I think since then they released quite a few different characters, so there's a big pool of characters to choose from, and since they are pretty affordable, I think it's easy to collect. Yeah. The regular versions, they say it's around like 17 to 18 centimeter tall, but they do have larger versions available at a higher price point. And I know you guys are probably pretty familiar with Pop-Up Parade because, of course, a lot of holomems, including me, have been getting Pop-Up Parades as well. And I know quite a few of you guys have been collecting as much as possible. I know some of you guys have collected all of Myth. And you know, other holomems as well. There's a lot of them. I own quite a lot of them, but I decided to feature only one of the hololive members because her design has a lot of smaller details, which is like a good, I guess, judging point for the quality of a figure as well. So I chose Ame because she does have a lot of smaller details, especially since the pose for the Myth Pop-Up Parade is roughly based on the art I did for the debut video. And so in that one, she has like her jacket on, she has all her accessories. So having those details reflected in a smaller scale is, I think, pretty difficult, but they did a pretty good job. I think you can definitely tell that the hair definitely is a lot more, I guess, chunkier than, I guess, a higher price point figure, but otherwise, all the details are still there. And, of course, very important, Ame's face looked very cute. Yeah, the pattern on her skirt is, I think, printed, sticker printed. But as you can see the detail of her belt, her thighs, her syringes. I think they did a really good job with the syringes, especially. Those smaller details are hard to get. And her belt in the back looks very crisp. And especially her legs, I think, were really well sculpted because there's like a certain style Nabi Mama has when she draws legs, and I think that's like really visible, especially in the back view as well. I really like Ame's Pop-Up Parade. Yeah, I have all of Myth lined up. Very nice. Although I gotta say, I think it's Gura's one that has a different base than everyone else. So yeah, they should have kept the same base. Anyways, one other Pop-Up Parade I did wanna cover because Pop-Up Parade actually has quite a range. Not only like humanoid figures, but they have slightly different ones as well, which is why I wanted to include Nanachi. You definitely tell from how the fur is represented that it is Pop Parade, but still, the hair falling down, the different gradients in her clothes, and I'm pretty sure there's so many different textures to Nanachi that I always thought it would be quite difficult to represent in a figure. But despite it being like from Pop-Up Parade, like different fur textures and the wood, I think this is wood and the metal helmet is all different. So they put a lot of care into that. I really like that. So this is one of the Nanachi figures I have. I do have another scale figure of Nanachi, but it is left with Mamani's. Maybe one day I can show it off. But yeah, despite, people sometimes will think that budget friendly means a lot lower quality, but when it comes to the lineups these days, I think they're pretty good quality for the price point. Okay, so the next and last budget friendly lineup I did want to cover is actually the Furyu Tenitol lineup. I think this is also a pretty notable budget-friendly lineup, and it has quite a big pool of characters as well, even some of the really recent animes. And I personally am a really big fan of their material choices, because sometimes they use not just opaque materials, but they sometimes use like the slightly clear translucent materials pretty well as well. And Tenitol does a really good job with the faces of the figures. And the one I own from Tenitol is actually Bochi. And what I really like about this Bochi figure is actually the hair, because I think sometimes you can tell like there are some places with the connecting parts of the hair where there are little, what should I say, little tidbits of the material that's kind of sticking out and stuff. But with this one, it's very smooth, very crisp, which I really like. And the skirt as well as the edges, I think, are very well finished. The details on the guitar too, I think it's pretty well crafted. Like, I would see the figure and think that it might just be like normal scale figure almost. So yeah, and I remember I had to put this together a little bit. It did come with separate parts for the amp, and the foot part has a little support as well. But part of my Bochi collection. Alright, next up, last but not least, we got the minifigures, which I would call the SD Chibi mini characters. I just grouped them into one, and these are probably most well known due to the Nendoroid series. I think it's hard not to know the Nendoroid series because it is one of the biggest lineups, I guess, of characters. Very famous, very well known, and of course, a lot of Hello Mems have Nendoroids, including me, Ninomae Inanis. I have to say, Nendoroids are not only limited to just like the base lineup. Oh, I guess I can talk about this in the next slide. Yeah, it's probably the most well-known lineup with over 2,000 figures released. Probably more than 2,300 at this point. I just put a big number, but there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of characters that have been released. It's movable, posable, it comes with different facial expressions and accessories just like Figma. And Nendoroids also have a DX version, which has more accessories but are slightly more expensive than their regular counterparts. just like Ninomae, Inanis has a normal and a DX version. Yeah. And even within Nendoroids, actually, they have different switchable parts or variations where there is a Nendoroid doll, which they have a doll-like body, different from the normal, more chibified version of the body. There's like a more less chibified version. I don't know how to say it. Version of the doll where you can switch heads of the Nendoroids onto that body and make it into a doll. Or there is a sitting Nendoroid where you can also switch the heads to a sitting position. And they have custom alternate outfits, which you can also switch the heads. And you see a theme here. There's a lot of switchability with these Nendoroids. Yeah, and there's a lot of characters, so one of the fun things you can do is actually switch like outfits and accessory with other Nendoroids you own. And of course, from my own collection, I have none other than Ninomae Inanis of Hololive English Myth, the DX version. The DX version comes with the tentacles. And personally, I've always wanted an Nendoroid version of myself, and I was really happy seeing the progress from the start. And I think one of the difficult parts about creating a Nendoroid, I think they talked about it in one of the documentaries they have on YouTube. I think you can find it if you look for it. Which is to keep the image of the character intact while, you know, squishing their features into this cute chibified version. And especially for me, for Ina, there's a lot of details in my outfit that's pretty hard to implement when it's squished down to a smaller scale like this, but they really did a good job. Totally not biased. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And for comparison, I took a picture of the of what it comes with. On the left is Callie's normal Nendoroid. Comes with two different expressions, different arm parts, accessories, her weapon, microphone, wine, and sunglasses. Whereas on the right is the DX version of me, which comes with the tentacles and all the other stuff in the normal version. Yeah. So there are other DX versions out there. You can probably check it out to see what kind of different accessories they come with. Yeah, it's pretty cute. And of course, you can post them differently, as I showed off with Nendoroid Ina taking over the stream. I still remember trying to edit the photos with all the Nendoroid Inas, and it was a nightmare because I didn't have a light box. But yeah, you can also choose different expressions as well. And of course, one of the most fun things to do with the Nendoroid is switching parts with other Nendoroids that you own. I switched parts with Frieden's face. It fits pretty well because Frieden also has elf ears, pointy ears. But yeah, you can do this with all the Nendoroids, so you can switch around, you know, accessories, face parts, outfits, whatnot. So, yeah, and you know, a lot of holomems have Nendoroids out as well. You can have your own switcheroo with the outfits. Yes. Okay. So the next and last lineup of figures, it's a minifigure that I want to cover. It's a pretty recent lineup. I talked about this before, how I'm a big fan of it. It is the Hello Good Smile. And yeah, it's pretty new. It is small. It is affordable. And it has a very cute art style. And each figure has like the same pose, which is just, they have their like hands to the side and they have our fingers pointing outwards. And you can't really pose them other than just tilting their head. But you can line up all of the figures from this lineup the same. So if you line them side by side, it kind of looks like they're holding hands. I think that's very cute. And some of the examples, I only own a few of them. I could not take a picture of it. I did by Fubuki senpai's, but I don't have pictures of it, so I borrowed the pictures from AmiAmi. Thank you, AmiAmi. And yeah, there's some of our senpais already released as little good smile figures, which means quite possibly you could get them all and line them up very cutely like this. This is just from the photo, and I lined them up, and look how cute they are. Imagine how cute they look in a display case. I can't wait to get more of them. I think it's always like a nice way to organize and display figures if they have like the same pose, especially. They have great order to them, and I like order. But that's just me. So, but the art style is so simple yet so cute and iconic that I really wanted to mention this in this video. And they're quite affordable as well, and therefore very good for collecting and for gifting too. So, yeah. So that was about it for all the different categories and stuff. So, in conclusion, I want to say that figure collecting is a rabbit hole of its own. There's a lot more figures out there than what I, kind of categorized. But I think if it kind of sparked your interest about the different figures out there, if you found out something new about figures that you haven't known, then I'm happy. If this is all information you knew, thanks for tuning in to the video. I appreciate it. But yeah, I hope, maybe to someone who was kind of on the border of trying to collect figures of their favorite characters, or, favorite VTubers, favorite Ninomae inanis, something that you can consider. And of course, it's November right now, so the holiday season is coming up. So maybe you can consider getting a gift for someone, and you can perhaps choose from the different categories that I kind of showcased here, maybe perhaps. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys sometime in December when I can be back again. Make sure to check out AmiAmi. Have many figures you can get. Wow. I think it's a little too late to get the postcard for November at the moment, but I did hear some good news about if you guys want to get postcards in Japan in the near future. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the morning, afternoon, evening. And thank you very much for watching the video. Take care. Until next time. Bye-bye.